open up, so not totally, but at least partially, and relaxed, more relaxed for people.
Good morning. Hi, Roti. Good evening, Roti.
Open up, so not totally, but at least partially, and relaxed, more relaxed for people.
Good morning. Hi, Roti. Good evening, Roti.
Open up, so not totally, but at least partially, and relaxed, more relaxed for people.
Ajahn, are you here now?
Sawadika.
Sawadika, Ajahn.
Sawadika, Ajahn.
Sawadee-krap.
Sawadee-krap,ท่านอาจารย์
Sawadika, Ajahn.
Hello, Zhao and Anne and everyone else.
Hi.
Sandra.
Everyone. So please carry on.
At the very end of the discussion last week, and you were asking about experiencing, and we cut it a bit short because time was up. Was there anything else you wanted to explore on that topic?
I think that it's just a matter of understanding what is there now. Even we talk about it so very, very often, but it's still there. See, and the work of the teaching can condition moment of beginning to be interested in understanding that which now appearing. Depending on conditions, it can be any time, it can be thinking about it, it can be at moment of touching, it can be moment of whatever is there, unexpectedly. Each word should be implanted so firm in the order that it can condition moment of imply the truth of it naturally, little by little, to understand what is there now. It's just so very common, like it experiences, it sees, it thinks, it likes, but it's not known at all at moment when it's there. That's why to understand the truth of what is there, it has to be the moment when it's there. But it's impossible to understand it even right now if it's not enough right understanding of the understanding of actually each word is so very true, very important to know that there is nothing until it's nothing, because it's there just for a very short moment and then gone. Unknowingly, this is the point, to listen to each reality as it is. Just exactly the same, hardness, see? But hardness is no one and no thing. It's hard at the moment when it appears, and there must be the reality which experiencing it just right now, very natural, until it can letting go, the clinging to the story, to what we usually think about it as something permanent. But it takes quite a long, long time to understand the truth of this moment. But the truth is so true, it cannot be changed at all. It is just right now. So just listen and know that we cannot escape from the truth because it's all around, no matter at moment of seeing, hearing, or wanting, or liking, anything at all. But it's not known as it is because not enough thinking, considering about it as it is, and no one can force it to be just the moment when it really understands that. but it begins to understand it's so true, and this is life, very natural. No matter what is there now, is conditioned. No matter what is there now, is conditioned. Each word will be implanted little by little until it's so natural to begin to understand life. And it does mean that it has to follow the word in the book, but the way it is from moment to moment, very naturally in life. And that is the moment of seeing that what is meant by understanding the reality which is now appearing. Never the other thing at all. Never be able to escape from that moment which is there already, and no thinking, no understanding of it's there already, but actually it's there right now. So just listen to what is there now appearing and begin to develop the understanding of the nature of that as no thing. Otherwise, there must be I, and the I is always any moment. The rupa is taken from me or I or thing, but the reality which experiences that is there. The 5 khandas and the 4 nama khandas are there. See, so it is the moment of understanding. It's no one who can do anything, but the development of understanding the truth of it is it. It is it, only that, little by little, naturally. So it's the daily development of understanding what is there by conditions. No self, no one, until only one reality appears to the panya, right understanding, which develop to understand the moment when it's different from direct understanding because of there is awareness of that particular object, naturally, and then gone. And then there can be lots of ignorance again, clinging again, thinking again, but all are there as dhammas, little by little. And this is the words of the Buddha, taught about the way to realize the truth of this very moment, the force of the holy truth. The path is just right now, any moment of no ignoring that which is now appearing. But it is no one at all. All depends on conditions. That's why the beginning, more and more, of the understanding of uncontrollable, it's there already, begin to develop. And what has been accumulated will show up as it is, so natural. No thought to have such and such idea to understand this and that, because it's not there yet. It hasn't been conditioned to arise yet. So what is there is only there when it's conditioned, a moment of what is there, and then gone. So very, very natural, and it slips away all the time. That's why listening to the truth and understand the point of the teachings is to understand what is there now as it is, so natural. And we can talk about anything Buddha taught by way of Vinaya or Suttanta or Abhidhamma, because they are all about what is there in a day for everyone by conditions. That's why it's beyond any word to describe the whole reality is conditioned for this and that moment of such and such moment of different people. That's all. So very natural, even right now. Begin to understand that even just moving is conditioned. Very natural, it's gone. No thing, no one. And the truth is that there is only many things at moment of thinking, only idea about that which has been experienced and kept in mind as is so very, very personality or something there. But actually, where it is, see, the truth is that where it is now, what is there is only when it appears and then gone. So whatever appears is only when it has a reason and be the object of experiencing. That's all. That's all. Gone. Everything. Just having heard about this and sanya marks and remember little by little that actually what is there is not as it is, as something of people and things. It's only that which appears because of there is the reality which experiences it from moment to moment very rapidly. That's all. From life to life. That's all. Until the end. But it's not easy because it has to be the understanding itself which really understand the truth of that which is now as it is by considering again and again. At moment when reality appears, there's nothing more than that. But it doesn't appear as that, but the truth is that. So there can be more understanding of each different ones so that it can be known as nothing in it, like seeing a person. See, just seeing what is seen, that's all. And when it's not seeing, sanya marks and remembers wrongly that it's still there as something of me or mine. But actually, in truth, there is nothing there, only that which appears only in that very moment and then gone. To consider the truth, that's all. That's all means Panya begins to understand it, not me, but Panya begins to understand the way it is. From life to life, no more than this is heard to develop the understanding of the truth of what is there only when it appears. And completely gone means completely, forever, never to arise again, each moment. So we study about what is there now, the truth of it, in order to understand better and better, clearly and clear about it is that which can be directly experienced when Panya, right understanding, develops enough, just understanding from listening first, and then considering, and then moment of it's there to understand with awareness directly, that is what we are hearing. Hardness is there. And it's there only when it is there. No more. That's all. It develops while listening, considering, and understanding naturally, unknowingly. That's why the path is so very subtle, because it's the matter of understanding what is heard about what is there, little by little. Anytime, only talking about that which is now appearing in order to marks and remembers the truth of it little by little. Not me, not I, but the sanya, that which marks and remembers, develops little by little to understand what is true and what is not true. And Panya knows because it's true and it can be directly experienced at moment of no attachment or clinging to take it for anything as before. And Panya has to be so very true to the truth. It's there, see. Can it be anything else? It is seen. Can it be anything else? Different objects. And what is that which knows why what is seen is quite different? Because a reality which arises and performs the function of experiencing the characteristic of that clear than the other mental factors which also experience that object, but by way of different characteristic and different function. That's all. And from hearing and understanding little by little, in the future, no matter when, this life or the life, when it's heard again, right understand it quicker or deeper, depending on the accumulation. And this moment is accumulated naturally from moment to moment. But comparing to that which has been accumulated in years and years ago, it's so very little. But anyway, it's so powerful, because if there's no understanding at all, what would be? No understanding at all. Like in darkness, so very dark, no understanding the truth which is there. But only right understanding can discover or understand the truth of it. It's there now, it's gone, see? Because other reality is there. They cannot appear together by different conditions, seeing and touching, see, ready there to be studied, to understand the truth, to have more interest in understanding the truth. Chanda is there, interest to understand the truth, because it's there. So why not understanding it as it is? And what about ignorance? It conditioned the idea of something, no matter what is that, or it's I who see, who remember. Everything is there now to be object of hearing about it, understanding it little by little. No other way, see? Right understanding knows that. Sense is the understanding of what is there now. So it's never be other way without beginning to consider hearing, considering, understanding, little by little, naturally. And this is the way it develops. No one there at all. The truth is so true that it is so true now at this moment too, to be known. But from hearing again and again and again about the truth, no thing in it, no matter what is there, no body, no person, no one at all, only a characteristic that cannot be changed at all, is conditioned to be such that which experiences has to arise and experience. When it's a reality which experiences an object, how can it be different? So now it arises and experiencing what is there naturally. And that which there, which cannot experience, is also there. Nobody can swap, can make it change, can do anything. It's gone completely, instantly. That's why it's hidden, because of no enlightenment of the truth that can help the other to understand what is there as it is. As it is. And this will become daily life. The life, the understanding change, no thought about how impermanent everything, every moment is. Touching, and then seeing, and then thinking, different moment. So very rapidly there, as the whole, as everything there unknown together from moment to moment. But they cannot be together as one, united at all. It's only that particular one, citta, at moment when it arises. Does it know the cetasikas which arise with it? Impossible, because the truth is that it's the reality which is conditioned to arise to experience an object. So citta and other factors, cetasikas, arising together, experience the truth, the reality which is experienced together but different function. So we can understand that usually we can understand moment of anger, moment of craving, the other moment of other reality, but that which arises is there from birth, from then on, arising and falling all the time, experiences an object at moment when it arises and then gone. Each one is different by conditions. No understanding. That's why what is that seems or appears like a thing together with many things, color and hardness and so on, when it's experienced, but actually only one at a time. Who knows? This is the truth. So the truth can be known to right understanding only, which begin the right way to know what is the best thing in life or in samsara or in this moment, understanding the truth. And this is the beginning of the development of panya itself, to see the value, the precious moment of understanding. And when it's more developed, how great it is, it can directly experience the truth, no doubt, until no more attachment to such wrong understanding. From then on, never to arise again. Depends on the understanding of each word about each reality right now. Develop little by little.
Yes, I think it's always the main point. It's as it is now. It's right now without any experiencing. Nothing could appear, nothing could be experienced without seeing. No visible object could be seen without thinking. No concepts could be thought about. And the experiencing just arises by its many conditions and falls away instantly, never the same from moment to moment. No one there to experience, just citta arising, experiencing the object and then gone immediately, accompanied by the cetasikas, which Sajjan just mentioned. It doesn't know anything about, because the seeing sees visible object. It doesn't know that phassa is contacting or sanya is remembering. Each cetasika is performing its function, but citta is just the leader in experiencing the object and then gone. And without the firm understanding of the clear distinction between the experiencing and the reality which is experienced, there can never be the development of satipatthana and vipassana jnana. So each reality has to be understood as either nama or rupa at this moment, but it's just the reality which is experiencing now, or that which is experienced, which appears.
Yes, Tanajan, I really appreciate your comments. They're always such wonderful reminders. I wrote down one just a moment ago. That which appears is only because there is a reality which experiences it. And even though I know it's very simple, but I think it's a very powerful reminder of those realities which Sarah really in many ways has just been speaking to. So I really appreciate it. And I can't say enough how much I appreciate, every so often that you are sharing the Dhamma with us. It is a true blessing. And I know that there are many other people who think exactly the same as I do.
And because of its truth, so true, the more one hears about it, the understanding is there to know that it's so true. Nobody can change anything now because it's already conditioned. But no one talk about the truth, that what is it which is there, that which cannot experience, but it's there. And it has to impinge on the eye base. And there must be other factors for a moment of experiencing it. Just arise to see and then all gone, never to return. And this is the covered up the truth. The truth is discovered from eons and eons ago until the words from the enlightened one just talk about the truth of it for the others to listen, to think about it, to begin to understand what is there from moment to moment, eons and eons and eons, uncountable eons there, to begin to understand the truth, the absolute truth. And it's there right now. When Panya is enough, it can be moment of attending to hardness, and it depends on how much Panya is there, because it's there just very short, because other reality is there, seeing is there, and hearing is there, and hardness is there. See, each one is so different. Only one characteristic, a reality, which can be directly known. That's why we begin to understand what is meant intellectual understanding and direct understanding. Because even there are many things around, and the hearing hears about each of it, this and that all the time, but it depends on whether one object there can be attended or noticed, or whatever we can use, because Panya is strong enough, but it begins to understand it's not other thing, it's only that which is now appearing, can be known as it is, that it's conditioned already, no matter its moment of stretching out the hand by conditions. Otherwise, how can it just happen or to be such moment reaching out? There must be attachment, there must be memory of what is there, there must be other moment, intention to stretch out, and so on. This is in a moment right now, from moment to moment. That's why understanding the truth of what it's meant by reality, it means no one, no thing. It's a reality. And beginning to read carefully and understand it, it's all about what is there now and any moment in life, until right understanding begins to understand it. The truth is now, every moment. It depends on awareness, whether it's there or not, because there can be moments that everyone knows it's hard, all right, but who knows? No understanding, not understanding. The sanya marks and the phasa and other jatasikas are there. Just know that object, see, in a split second as it is, but no understanding. So when there is the understanding of the truth of it from hearing, when it's developed, it can be a moment of, as usual, moment of touching and seeing. But right understanding begin to get closer, to remember that it's there, not in a word, but at moment when it's there, at sanya, which begins to understand the truth that it is a reality, and depend on other conditions for panya, whatever it is, to just be there. It can be thinking correctly, rightly, wisely, that it's only that. But that is not strong enough until more and more development of other reality as well. Because they are there together, it seems like only one object experienced as something, but actually each different doorways followed one by one very rapidly. That's why beginning to understand, know me, see, little by little, until all dhammas can be known as not me, little by little, one by one, very gradually. For example, right now, who knows sanya? It marks, it remembers what is there, which is experienced. No one knows it's there, and then it's gone. And what about other mental factors? They are there too, by conditions. That's why it needs more hearing and considering from life to life to understand the truth. And that is not I or me, but it's the chanda, which condition satta away from akusala to see the value of the moment, that it can be understood and it can condition firmer understanding that can be known, not by me, but from hearing again, considering again, and then whatever is there, depending on whether it is object of understanding or not yet, directly or not yet. So very true, natural.
John, can you talk a bit about the extreme subtlety of no self, Kwam Ben Rao? No, because as I understand it, one will that really does not occur. Any understanding, a full understanding of no self until, well, I guess beginning with Satipatthana, but it's certainly not eliminated, not let go of until the stage of Sotapanna.
And what is the beginning? With our beginning, can it be the end?
No, it's no.
That's why just consider just one word again and again at moment of hearing. Is there anything appearing now?
Yes.
Okay. What is that? Or what is it?
It's not
as
the
it
reality.
is, not as we have learned, but as it is right now.
It's not the reality that appears. It's ideas.
But that is thinking, right?
Yes,
but just that which appears, see?
Mm-hmm.
This is a truth, that to be true to the truth.
Right.
What is that? It's taught by the enlightened one. What about the right understanding of the person who just begin to hear about it? To be very, very true to the truth. What is there? See, as it is. But learn to understand little by little that it is not as it is. But now it appears as something, as it is, because of experiencing so many moments with idea. See, before there can be the moment, how come to be such moment in life, ordinary things around and so on? How come? It has to be. What is there? To be so truthful. What is there? Right now, no idea about what is heard. Otherwise, it's only thinking about what I have heard. But this is the moment of being truthful. What is there? To begin to understand that it is ignorance. It cannot understand what is there until each word is considered. Yes. To understand the truth, whether what is true, beginning from what is there now.
Right. Well, there are many realities, but as you always say,
this is the theory. This is what we heard. But now the truth at moment of this, what is there?
At this moment?
Yes.
There's seeing, there's visible, but it's hidden.
Just seeing, only seeing. See, it seems like we understand seeing. It seems like it's very easy to know because it's there, seeing. But what is it? Because if there's no understanding, that is just a moment, right? Only a moment of that which appears.
Yes.
So we say seeing. There must be seeing. But actually at that moment, no understanding of seeing as it is yet, right?
Right.
Just use the word seeing. It's seeing. But it does not get close to the reality of seeing yet. But it's true, everyone sees. So what is there? Usually people talk about that which is seen, not the seeing, right?
Right.
So Panya, right understanding, having heard the truth about what is there as we take for seeing and things, actually it's a moment of a reality which experiences what is seen. Otherwise, there cannot be that which appears and seeing at all, right? Just in a moment, the truth of that very moment. To begin to study, see, we learn a lot about the theory, but now, see, study that which is now sees from hearing, no doubt about it's not me, it's a moment, it's a reality, it experiences an object, but that is in the book or the words we have heard. But what about now, at this very moment? Is it as such we have heard? Because who is thinking? See, it's about seeing, unknown. There's not just seeing. When we're talking about seeing, there's also thinking about seeing.
Right.
Unknown as no one. Thinking is not seeing, and seeing cannot think, and think can see. And just like that. But now it's moment of beginning directly to understand the truth. No understanding yet about the characteristic which is not that which is experienced, but it just arises, no shape, no form, just to see and then gone. Beginning to develop the core, the heart of the truth that is there, the reality which now arises and experience. The word is not very difficult, but the truth is so very deep because it's not known, that which just arises and experience. Even it's heard many, many 100,000 moments. But what about the understanding? Just little by little, at moment of not forgetting, see, what is heard as it's true, before it can be object of the development of understanding of the truth, not just thinking in words about the story, about what is taught, to understand it. But the point is to understand that actually there's no one, no thing at all in a moment. And this is the beginning of the development, firmer, a little firmer, about the truth of actually, the truth is no one and nothing. It's there. So what is it? We use the word it's there. But what is it? No me, no I. So what is it? It's a reality which experiences, beginning to think and consider the characteristic which experiences now. That it experiences before one is so acquainted to the characteristic, having heard about it, no idea, no word there, but it's the beginning of to understand it from hearing. No, we don't know when will it be at that very moment, but it's there by conditions. It cannot be told because it is anatta, depending on condition. At what moment will it be there? How much it is about that which is there. The understanding from hearing without hearing about it at all. How can there be such moment of thinking that is the object of what is heard to be directly understood it as it is, as not self? See, that's why this is the subtlety of the truth that if we just read and consider it with the idea of I, no understanding that it's sanya and other mental factors are there, arising and falling away, unknown with the idea of self, more and more, when it's not wise enough to know the truth of each word, that it's all about the truth of what is there, that which experiences, see? And at moment when whatever is seen is there, can anyone change it from not it be there? Because that experiences only that at that very moment.
So, let's see. When there's no understanding of what is really there, it is just thinking. It is always just thinking without any direct understanding of what is there.
And no understanding of thinking either.
Right, right. And that is what we take for self at that point.
Mm-hmm. At moment of not understanding the truth of what is there as it is, as not self, it has to be the self.
Yes, yes, okay. Thank you.
And like we mentioned last time about bhavana, it is the development of understanding. So it has to develop. So glimmers of light, glimmers of understanding, and a little bit more glimmer of light, a little bit more understanding, and a little bit more. But of course, the idea of self cannot be eradicated immediately because, as you said, it's only eradicated at the stage of sotapanna, but the understanding develops. So gradually it begins to lessen the hold of the wrong view, a little bit lessening, a little bit more letting go, a little bit more developing gradually, little by little. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, but at a moment of understanding, even just a little and even very slight, it understands what is true. And at that moment, there's no clinging to self and no doubt at that moment. And it conditions a little bit more, a little bit more. So gradually it weans itself off the wrong taking for what is seen, for the seeing, for the thinking as something, as me. But it has to be a very gradual process, gradual weaning away.
Thank you,
And
Sarah. That's helpful.
And I was just going to say too that I really appreciate what Ajahn says about all the raw materials are there, they're here. They're not out there at another place. They're available. And if that understanding, certainly at an intellectual level, is not appreciated, then there won't be any development. So all the raw materials, whether it's hardness, thinking, seeing, or whatever reality that may be appearing, is not carefully considered, then there won't be, whatever word we like to use, as Ajahn said, I like that too. It's the words are not so important, but it's so valuable to know that the raw materials are available at this moment. They're not at another time. She used another word today. Yeah, we can't swap, which I appreciate too. We can't swap the reality that appears now for another one. And that's so powerful. It's just so true.
It's so important to know that it's now. As you say, the raw materials are now. Direct understanding can only be of what is now. What is appearing now? Slowly.
Sure, and sure, it's absolutely. So that, and the more confidence that we can have in that present reality, the more conditions there will be for understanding that must follow.
Thank you.
And I think that it's a lot to do with saddha too, in a way. The more we have confidence that the reality is just what it is, the more the path can be developed. It's not at another time, and the more I reflect on these truths that Jan and Sarah and others share, I see how unfortunate that people get caught up in these other ways, which really are not helpful, because they are in many ways ignoring the present reality, which is so, in many ways, in the beginning, may not be so obvious, but with time it can become very obvious that there's no other time really than the present reality, and we neglect that in many ways at our peril.
Yes, and as you referred to, and Ajahn stressed last time, it's not about just finding the meaning of the word more clinging, but understanding the reality itself, no matter what it's called that appears now. It doesn't matter what that which is seen is called, but it is the understanding of that which is seen that has to be known.
It gives new meaning, Sundar, what you were saying to the expression, there's no time like the present.
Yeah, that's so true. And of course, the Dhamma puts another very different twist on that at a much deeper level. My dad always used to say that to me at times. But of course, that had a very different meaning. And he was pointing me in another direction. But the wiser ones can, like Tanajan, Sarah, can indicate to us that it's referring to a reality. It's not a story. Because most it's not a story. It's a reality, and it's really important to see that difference. And I think still often when I read different things online, sometimes I see that this sort of basic area of getting confused between concepts and realities, it's not an easy one. But I do believe with patient commitment to truth, we can see that the reality, it refers to something that's real at this present point in time. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to think about it. And that can often get in the way.
Yes, like you said, everyone can say, oh, this is just the present moment, or be aware of the present moment. But without understanding of reality right now that appears, it's meaningless. It doesn't make any sense, and it leads to a lot of misunderstanding because the concepts are taken for the realities. Like someone's comment recently, if one refers to how there's no self that owns anything, well, they think that one shouldn't live in a house or have nice clothes or something like this, because no understanding of the realities that appear right now as anatta, no matter the circumstances. So it has to come back every time to understanding what appears the reality itself.
Because now it's a reality. Otherwise, how can there be the understanding of that as not self?
And without that understanding, there cannot be the understanding that I don't own anything. Nothing belongs to me. It's nothing to do with conventional objects or possessions. It's about the understanding that it is just seeing which sees, not I that sees, not I that hear, not I that think about objects. They're just realities that arise and fall away. So no one there to own anything at all.
And there is nobody there to do anything either, which I think is a slight variation on that theme, Sarah. There is that's often forgotten. It's not. When I think about the Dhamma, I think about this aspect a lot. There's really nobody there. I know that's just a story, and it is at those particular moments. But I believe what Ajahn says, that the more that's considered carefully, the more that can condition right understanding, and having confidence in that. I think it's a big part of what development is about.
This is the Buddha's teaching, that no one to do anything, no one that can own anything, no one at all. So no story about anyone or anything, because there is just Dhamma arising and falling away. And the bhavana is the understanding of reality, not of I that can do something or should do something or can practice something, but just the penetrating or understanding the truth at this moment.
I would just like to add that in terms of reflecting on no I, no being, one needs to be careful not to replace one kind of misunderstanding wrong with another. And this can only be avoided, I feel, by appreciating that the correct understanding is the understanding of the reality that is appearing at the present moment. And it is that understanding that leads to the correct appreciation of no I, no self. So we need to be careful we don't start from a supposition that is a bit like selecting an object. If we try to be aware of, say, seeing a visible object by focusing on it, we know that we're not focusing on seeing a visible object. We just have an idea of what those realities are. So it can't be the right way. And similarly with any kind of assumption about what the teachings are, the characteristic of impermanence, for example, or of unsatisfactoriness. And these things can really only become properly known by the understanding, the awareness and understanding of what is appearing at the present moment.
Jonathan, I'm not so entirely clear on that distinction you're trying to make. Can you just speak to that a little bit more?
Well, the distinction I'm trying to make, or the point I'm trying to make, is that we have a lot of accumulated wrong view, including the wrong view of a self, that there is a self. And if we start from a point of, well, there is no self, so what is appearing now is not self, then that appreciation of what is appearing now and the idea that it's no self will also be inflected by the wrong view that's been accumulated to a certain extent. And so I feel the emphasis in the Buddha's teaching is all about the realities, that the understanding of the realities that are now appearing. And it is by virtue of that understanding, seeing as seeing, visible object as visible object, that there comes to be a correct appreciation of the characteristic of anicca and dukkha and anatta.
Yeah, okay, that's a little bit clearer. And that, of course, is not to say that thinking in the term that you're earlier alluding to there, to avoid that confusion, may not still be helpful at times. If there is, I think it's clearer to me now what you're trying to say, that there can be this tangling up or accumulation of more wrong view. However, Ajahn just said a moment ago, and some of these areas are not easy to articulate, and so I appreciated your efforts to clarify that, that sometimes it's not so important the words we use. They can lead to misunderstanding, whatever words are used sometimes. So it's a bit of a trap in a way. I hear what you're saying, But of course, and I know you're not saying that, but whatever word is used can be useful to develop the path. But I'm hearing the caveat that you're putting on that, on those distinctions.
I didn't follow what you just said, but anyways, I can listen to the video later.
So you're talking about me. So you're talking about me then, Roti. Sorry.
Do you have anything you'd like to bring up, Roti, or Tadao, or anyone else?
Not me for the moment, thanks.
John, I just want to pick up on one question that Alberto, I think, is here. Hi, Alberto. He brought up a few weeks ago about sila. We know that sila, any kusala, akusala, citas are different kinds of sila, and also kiriya citas of the arahat. So no matter what kind of thinking, whether kusala or akusala, it is different moments, different behaviors of citta. And Alberto brought up the point when talking about the Eightfold Path factors, that the three viriti chaitasikas are referred to as sila, but actually, as you mentioned, any of the path factors are sila. In this case, all kusala sila. And so I don't think it was completely clarified why just the three viriti chaitasikas are referred to as sila in that context. We know the panya and vitaka referred to understanding. That is fairly clear, but why only the three viriti chaitasikas are referred to as sila when any of the citas, any of the chaitasikas are sila?
Because it's a Cetasika, because it is the reality which restrain from ill deeds at moment of no killing, or akusala, right? Just talk about
Yes.
the way it is.
Yes.
What we mean by sila, as usual in a day, at moment of abstaining, killing, what is that? It has to be only virati cetasika, not other cetasika at all, depending on through words or speech. That's why we can talk about sila in general. That which cannot experience do not have sila for sure, but the reality which experiences, they are quite different from moment to moment, even it is the same. The same, what we mean by category of cetasika. For example, phassa. It's phassa, it cannot be changed, it cannot restrain from ill deeds. And at moment of satta, it cannot restrain from ill deeds when it's time at that very moment to kill and so on. But no killing because of only that cetasika arises and performs its function. That's why we pinpoint what we mean by sila. From just generally, it means the behavior of citta and cetasika. So many uncountable, we cannot count it all. From moment to moment, it is not as the same as it has been before by conditions, sankhara khanda. That's why we understand now in what manners or aspects we are talking about. When we talk about abstaining from ill deeds or at moment of performing good deeds, it depends on whether it is what is there. At moment of doing good deeds, is there virati cetasika? Even if sila is wholesome,
Yeah. It's wholesome, but
it's
usually like now, no virity, because no one's not inclined to speak harshly or to kill. So even though it's kusala sila, it's not virity sila.
So at moment of restraining from kila, it's there no me, not me, and no other cetasika. We don't have to name it, but it's that which abstain from killing right then, naturally by conditions. That's why it's different from other cetasikas.
We can say any kusala chitta is sila, kusala, sila, but when referring to the virity cetasikas at moments of abstaining, it's pinpointing that particular aspect of sila, of abstaining from akusala. So it's like a subset of sila, just emphasizing that particular aspect of abstaining when we refer to those cetasikas as the kusala sila.
And Sarah, I just want to be clear. You were saying that sila refers to the chitta and the cetasikas. And I'm not sure, I'd like Ajahn to clarify here. What I understand Ajahn to be saying is when she says it's a chitta and cetasikas, I think what she means is the chitta together with the cetasikas.
Right, there cannot be chitta without cetasikas, and there cannot be cetasikas without chitta.
Right,
So,
but not each cetasika is by its characteristic and function sila, but the chitta with all the cetasikas is sila.
So, for example, like at a moment of virity, abstaining from killing, there has to be chitta with the cetasikas. So the chitta and the cetasikas is the virity, but here it's emphasizing on the cetasikas in particular, those particular cetasikas, but it has to arise with that chitta. And the other cetasikas have to be there, like the panya and so on.
So what I understand is that if it's correct, what I thought that the one meaning of sila is the chitta with cetasikas. The other sila is those three particular cetasikas.
Right. So it's those. So any chitta, which has to be with cetasikas, is sila, kusala, kusala, virity. But here it is, when talking about the virity cetasikas, it's emphasizing the nature of those particular cetasikas which abstain, but they have to abstain with chitta and the other factors, of course.
Well, I think it also can be said, looking at it another way, that sila can have slightly different meaning in different contexts.
It also, it makes me think of sort of active sila, not one can act, but the kind, the virity, the abstaining from particular deeds, and passive, the sila that arises when there's kusalajita, although not the opportunity to be restraining from something.
But I don't think we can say it's active and passive. Like, for example, at a moment of kindness, there's no virity, but we can't say it's passive rather than active. So, or at a moment of understanding, is it active or passive? So it is kusala sila at any of those moments, but just it's not always with those virity cetasikas. And I think that's what's being emphasized, is that when the path arises with the virity, because the path can be fivefold or sixfold in daily life. So when it's sixfold, it has to be with the virity, sila, cetasika.
What made me think of it, Sarah, was when you spoke earlier about when we're just sitting here. Well, I guess we're listening, which is not the same as it doesn't seem to be in the category of an act of kindness. But I hear what
that's because we think of the situation again, because even now in reality, there are just moments of seeing and hearing and thinking with kindness, thinking with attachment, understanding, ignorance, doubts. So different moments, kusala sila, akusala sila. As soon as the seeing and other vipaka citas have fallen away. So no matter whether listening or being outside with the mosquito, it's still just different moments of kusala and akusala.
that now. Thank you.
Yeah, we're so used to conventionally thinking of listening as or sitting as passive and running around rescuing insects as active, for example, but actually just different citas rising and falling away.
It's right. Well, it's certainly conceptualizing and thinking, but it's moment by moment by moment. Yeah. Thank you.
And probably because in the mix, when you say passive, that includes just seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, which are vipaka. So there's a distinction between vipaka and the kusala, akusala too.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, for sure.
It's interesting that you brought that up though, Anne, because in grammar, the word kitcha is passive. And as we know, grammatically speaking, it's like the action happens to the person. And I appreciated that in terms of kitchenyana, that it's not something that you do. It's an understanding that develops without the active principle, so to speak. I just sort of come across that reasonably recently. It's not perhaps maybe not so clear to people, but I think understanding is, if we can describe it as passive, it may be helpful. It's not something that you do. You're not the doer.
I was going to say, only in the sense of no self, there is no one to do. That's
right. That's in the sense, grammatically speaking, in Pali, kitcha is passive. The action is done to the it happens in the moment. It's not something that there's not an active doer in there. And I remember I found that interesting when I came across that word for the passive case in Pali. Anyway, it's just a sort of a side thing, but it can be a reminder that realities are understood not by there's not an active principle there. Right. Anyway, I knew what you're trying to say before, and I think I found what Sarah had to say was helpful also.
Very.
Because whether there's abstaining from harming or wrong speech or understanding or kindness or meanness or any other citta, there's never anyone that does anything. So it's just this.
Hi everybody. I was thinking about the different classification of sila in the Visuddhimagga, and I remember at the time when I was reading it, I just confusing all the Samvara sila and Patimokkha sila. I just couldn't follow all the different differentiation. But when Ajahn explains it as the behavior of citta, as kusala and akusala, then it's I think it's more it's like it makes more sense, and it's more easy to understand it intellectually than going into all the different details which can be so confusing, I think.
And we can see that whatever the topic, no matter Patimokkha Sila or Samvara Sila or Virati or different kinds of akusala, like in the Vinaya, it's all about different kinds of citta with kusala and akusala. Just different kinds of subcategories and classifications, but all referring to different kinds of kusala and akusala, citta and cetasikas.
Different degrees of understanding. Maybe after it's a gradual process. So eventually, I'm sure. I hope I will understand also all the other different classification of sila and all the more all the details about it. But it's a long way.
Like with Virati, Sila can be with or without understanding, and the more understanding, the less need for any Virati. Like the Sotapanna, no more Virati to abstain from killing because no inclination to kill in the first place. So the more understanding, the less opportunity for Virati. For the Arahat, no Virati cheaters at all. So we can see, and the same with the Patimokkha Sila. So we can see that it's different when understanding is developed. Because kusala can be with and without understanding.
So when the magga citta of the Arahat arises, it doesn't arise with the three Virati Cittasika anymore. I cannot hear you, Sarah. Is your microphone on?
No, it wasn't on.
Okay.
So for the Arahat at the moment of Magga, then there cannot be any abstention from killing or stealing, because no more inclination to kill or steal, for example. So I don't know if there's any Virati left. Just only very subtle akusala that's eradicated. Mm-hmm. So for the anagami.
I have some questions about something we talked about, I think last time, when we talk about the woman cooking curry and that she burned it and she got enlightened, and also the guy who was cutting his throat when he got enlightened. I was wondering what you mean by getting enlightened in that I mean, if it's in the texts, if they say what they mean by getting enlightened, is it like becoming an arhat or becoming a sotapanna, or do you know? Anybody?
In the case of the Chunda who cut his throat, he became an arahat at that point, because I think the different stages of enlightenment followed so quickly. The understanding developed so quickly, because how long does it take to cut one's throat, but how long does it take for understanding to arise? So I think all kinds of wrong view, and then all akusala was eradicated. And
So
because it said at the end in the commentary, for him, no more becoming. And all the listeners, the other monks, they didn't understand what was meant, because they just seen him cut his throat, and they didn't realize at all until the Buddha explained that for him there was no more becoming at all, because he'd all kusala been fully eradicated. He'd become an arahat at that moment. So it all depends on accumulations and conditions.
So that means that when before becoming enlightened, he was a putuchana, right? Because if he had been let's say a sotapanna, he would not be cutting his throat, probably.
Right. So putujana, and then rapidly each stage of insight and enlightenment. Yes, so that by the time he had passed just before the Chuti Chitta, fully he'd become an arahat.
Right. Yeah.
We think in the conventional situation, so even the listeners thought he died as a putujana in ignorance, having cut his throat. So no one can tell from the outer appearance, but it all depends on the chittas that follow in rapid succession.
You said
and I think the lady who cooked the curry, I think also she became an arahat. That's why it's reported in the tales.
Right.
From my memory, excuse me, Roti, and the case of Channa, it's Channa Sutta were named very similar to that in the Majjhima Nikaya. He had actually cut his throat and realized that he was an arahatta at that stage. So it says that he put forth effort, and of course we know that must have been with right understanding. It can sound rather confusing if we hear that word. And he became arahatta. And of course, even Sariputta, who had been there earlier, was trying to dissuade him from, as they call it, taking the knife to himself. He had encouraged him not to do that. And but he said he was suffering incredible pain, and it obviously was very, very, very painful for him. So he had been contemplating it apparently for a while. So and even when he did do it, he slit his throat. He realized that he still wasn't arahatta, but as Sarah said, there are just, we think of these stories, but there is just and of course there must have been a lot of accumulated panya there already. But as you said very correctly, he wasn't even sotapanna. So going through all those different 8 stages, which are just moments, sotapatti, magga and pala, and same too with all the other sakadagami and anagami, and then of course arahatta, magga and pala. All those 8 moments, and those moments, of course, are what we pay tribute to when we pay tribute to the Arya Sangha. We pay tribute to those 8 moments, not actually to this idea of a story of the Sangha. Because when we refer to the Aryan Sangha, we are referring to those moments. And so as we know, life is just moments. So we have the story of Channa, who was obviously in a great deal of pain. but also realizing that he was still Patujana, and his wisdom flowered, shall we say, at that time, and he was Arahata. And it's only when they went to see the Buddha that the Buddha was able to clarify that he did not die. Actually, I'm trying to remember the words now. He did not die with fault. And I can't remember the Pali word, but he did not die with fault. And then
what means fault? I mean,
a fault, like
fault.
a misdemeanor or something wrong. A fault,
Any asavas left, any
yeah, that's another way of.
Yeah, no more asavas.
Yeah, that's right. You can say that.
Yeah.
And you said he before cutting his throat, he was contemplating the pain. I kind of wonder.
Oh yes, he was in quite a lot of pain, and because Sariputta went to see him and asked him how he was, and he said, "Oh, it's really, really painful. It's very, very painful." And
you said he was contemplating the pain. I wonder what it means by contemplating.
Well, he was thinking about the horrible. He was thinking about the pain, painful bodily feeling, and no doubt, obviously, he would have had a lot of painful mental feeling too arising. But he would have been
thinking or feeling the pain.
Both. He would have been. There would have been both, all 5 types of feeling would have been there. You know, dukkha vedana. I'm going to say 5. I'm talking about dukkha vedana, and also unpleasant mental feeling. They would have all been there. As that sutta talks about the Salla Sutta, the arrows. So he would have been both arrows being shot at himself. And as we know with the Arahata, there was just the one arrow. There is the unpleasant bodily feeling, but there's no unpleasant mental feeling. But he was having both at that stage. And then subsequent to becoming enlightened, there may have been unpleasant bodily feeling, but that would have been understood as it is, not a story.
For that thinking with such extreme aversion that he slit his throat.
Yeah.
So that's because of mental aversion, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But then fully understood.
Maybe he decided to cut his throat because of the contemplation.
Well, I think it's obviously we can say because of the accumulations. I suspect, no doubt, it's happened in previous lives, because my understanding is that suicidal cases often, because there are support conditions and there are the accumulations to think in those kind of ways and then to follow through with it, would have been something that's a habit that's accumulated, and he finds himself, because there are a lot of people who find themselves in those very painful and trying and horrible situations, but they never think about that. Obviously, he did. So there are.
But sometimes by contemplation, you make the situation look worse than it actually is. And sometimes too. But like I think in the case of Chandna, he had very good friends around him. He was a bhikkhu. Sariputta, and there was another bhikkhu who was with Sariputta also. They both tried to encourage him in the path of Dhamma, but he, because of his own accumulations, no doubt he considered very carefully what they were saying, and he must have also been developing the path. But he still went ahead, as Ajahn was talking about before. He moved the hand in a certain way by conditions, and then he literally had slit his throat, and then he realized that he still was still a patujana, and no doubt that caused him some anxiety, as you would. But that's I've often heard that with suicidal people who regret doing it. You hear these stories of people jumping off really high buildings or bridges, as they do in some places. Some places are quite well known for this, but some people survive of those things, and they would recall what they was going through their mind at the time, and many of them regret. I think most of them, probably all of them actually, I can imagine, regret about what they have done and the grief that they not only cause to those who leave behind. Anyway, this is a bit of a story, but yeah, so he
he was arahata at that moment, so he was blameless, as Sarah pointed out, because there were obviously no asava anymore.
And the act has conditioned by the clinging to self, clinging to the body, which conditions that strong aversion. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen like that. By accumulations, the understanding developed to that degree so quickly. Unexpected, just like now, whatever arises is unexpected.
Right.
Yes, blameless always means without any anusya remaining, all anusya eradicated. It's the arahata is the kinasava, the blameless one, because no asavas at all. So that's why what is meant when he was blameless. When he...
Also, when Ajahn says that our accumulation of akusala are so big, so like an amount which we can even imagine of. So even for people like Venerable Channa, who were accumulated parami to the point of becoming arahata, they still all this akusala was still effective to the point of not killing others, but killing or still strong enough to take
kill himself.
His own life. Yeah.
But this, in the same way that akusala accumulations are unknown, the same way kusala accumulations, because it was totally unexpected, as Sarah said, when while cutting his throat, he just went through all the 4 stages of the mind.
Yeah, right. And compare even the parami accumulated to become arahata compared to the akusala compared in samsara is still still a fraction, like a small amount compared. Even it's like for eons, accumulating parami for eons, and still I think probably a fraction compared to all the akusala accumulated over samsara.
I think that's a good point, Alberto. The really the deep, profound ignorance that there is, we can be inspired by, as you said, Venerable Channa, because there are also conditions for the panya that he had accumulated, and I guess it also points to the truth that how powerful panya can be in spite of all that incredible depth of the darkness that avijja represents. Still panya can penetrate and pierce that veil. It's a good point, but I think the truth is also, especially that panya is so very, very, very powerful.
Yeah, I didn't really get what Alberto's point was, that there's more akusala than kusala, or something like that. Is that your point, Alberto?
Yeah. Because we have the accumulation for killing oneself, but we should, if we don't have the accumulation of Venerable Channa to become enlightened, That's the difference. We only have the accumulations to do
but you can become enlightened right now while listening at my listening to my words. You don't know.
Yeah.
It's totally unexpected. You have no idea about your
I do know.
I do know
it's impossible. It's like dreaming. It's like
yeah, well, probably Chanda thought that also.
No, I don't think so.
I think that kind of thinking, I mean, it's just imagining if you have it or if you don't have it.
Yeah, I think we can talk for, I don't think we can talk, we can even think what Chana was thinking at the time when he did this or that, because we can't compare to him at all, I don't think.
Yeah, we cannot compare to him, but you can also not know what's going to happen next moment. Why not? If accumulations are there, you get enlightened right now. While I'm saying, while you're denying it, actually, while you're denying it, you can get enlightened. You cannot say no.
It's a gradual path, so it has to. It's not like a sudden enlightenment out of the blue, right?
Nobody's talking about sudden no, at all. I just said you don't know your accumulation. If we're talking about accumulation, that means that there's a gradual accumulating of understanding.
Right.
I think that Roddy's raised a good point there in many respects, because Tanajan always often speaks about Sariputta at that time when he heard Asaji. He was just eager. He hadn't accumulated any understanding in that life. And I can also appreciate what you're saying too, Alberto. Upatissa at that time, and then to be Sariputta, I hadn't heard it, but he had these vast accumulations of wisdom, and certainly Sariputta was perhaps, an exception in some respects, because he was second only to the Buddha, and as far as wisdom went. But it shows you that he was eager and intent on understanding life, and he was fortunate enough, or probably not so fortunate in some respects, because it's all dependent upon conditions, that we really, to be accurate, then he heard those words, those very famous words, Ye Dhamma, etc. And those words are actually really interesting, because it's just talking essentially to the nature of conditionality, and that's all there is. There are these conditions, and he was wise enough to understand the nature of conditionality. Ye Dhamma he tu pipawa. Whatever dhammas there are, ye Dhamma, whatever dhammas there are, ye Dhamma he tu pipawa, that originate from a cause, hetu, that originate from a hetu. Te sam hetum tatagatu ahe. Those roots that Tathagata is talking about. So he's talking about conditionality, and which is, of course, covered profoundly by the nature of anatta. The more that that can be appreciated, and I appreciate what Jonathan was saying before, that yes, we can get confused about the thinking, and thinking that there can be the development of the path, or I believe that's partly what Jonathan was trying to say. But they can be powerful reminders that what dhammas appear now are conditioned, and because that's what Sariputta understood. It's very clear from reading those words.
Yeah, what I also remember about the story about which both Sariputta and Moggallana were friends, and they were looking for the Buddha. They didn't know that they didn't know the Buddha, but they were looking for him. So I think that's shows their accumulation for.
I don't think they were looking for the Buddha. I mean, they were looking for
I think that they were
enlightenment, but not the Buddha.
Yes, they were
I think
for
anyway.
by well, anyway.
They were looking for wisdom, we can say.
Yeah, for
And
wisdom.
they're both looking for wisdom. And Sariputra immediately went and spoke to his friend and shared those exact words. And he too became Sotapanna. Actually, in fact, it was just hearing those 2 lines, not the whole lot, not all the words, but just a short couple of words. So it just shows you how both those 2 arahatas, Moggallana, who wasn't Moggallana then, I'm trying to think of his name, but anyway, with Kolita, he heard those words too, and his understanding of conditionality was profound, obviously too. We tend to forget how powerful the words of the Dhamma are, and that's also, and I said this morning, I think we're very blessed and fortunate to have such wonderful reminders from us all, really, from Tanajan, I'm thinking especially here.
Sundara, we've lost your sound. You appear to be, now we've got it.
I cut myself off there. I put my, I closed my microphone, so I had finished. I suppose what Tanajan is always reminding us is the nature of conditions. And when I first came across those words of Sariputra, I thought, what do they really mean? What was he considering? It's sort of arrogant in a way to put myself in that position, but I tried to understand those words. What do they mean? And they point very clearly to the nature of conditionality.
I just wanted to add about Sariputta and Moggallana. They were looking for the enlightenment, but they knew they couldn't get it themselves. So they needed the Dhamma, the true Dhamma. They need to hear the Dhamma to attain enlightenment. So they, in a way, they need, and without the Buddha, there is no Dhamma. So
they already had teachers. Shariputra was following another teacher when he met
Sanjaya Palitaputta. Yes, Sanjaya Palitaputta. They realized that, that wasn't what they needed. And they had a lot of, I believe, accumulated sangwega, we can say, that they wanted a deeper understanding. It was when they, of course, that Sariputta Sarasaji, that he realized that this fellow, or he thought this fellow, reflected a wisdom that he felt was what he was wanting to understand. And even when Sariputta went back to his old teacher and wanted to share it with him, he wasn't interested. He wasn't interested. Of course, he didn't understand because of his accumulated mana, a lot, partly, certainly to do with that. He just he appreciated having followers. He wasn't really interested in truth at all, it seemed. Just different accumulations, but no accumulation.
No accumulation.
No.
Yeah, that what makes the difference. It's just that even without the accumulations, even hearing the teaching is.
And I think was what sometimes Tanajan reminds us of. There was no sincerity or towards truth. He wasn't being truthful to the truth. He just had his own ideas and theories, and he liked having followers. He wasn't a person who really had that commitment to truth, and that was his downfall.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead, Anne.
Do any others have things they'd like to raise this afternoon? Excuse me, it's morning for most of you. Sarah, did you have something?
I was just going to say that, yes, I was chatting to a friend in Thailand yesterday about how someone may be leading a very ordinary life and they may just come across poor translations of the Tipitaka, but if there is the interest, the chanda, and the appreciation of what is true and right, then that it may condition enough understanding to hear the truth and find what is right and to consider carefully, whereas someone else may have attained the highest jhanas and have the best opportunities and associate with the Buddha or his disciples, but still not enough conditions to appreciate the truth. So it all depends on the accumulations, whether there is the interest to hear and understand at this moment or any moment unexpectedly. And I remember Ajahn used to say to us sometimes that if we cannot pass the test at this moment when life is going well and easily and we're not racked by pain or in hospital or on the deathbed, how will understanding develop later? So it has to be now. It always has to come back to this moment to develop the habit and the accumulation and the interest, because reality is right now. And this is the samvega, the urgency, seeing the importance of understanding right now, no matter the circumstances.
Sarah, what did you say about the deathbed?
I was saying that if we wait until the one is on the deathbed, it's too late. What about now? The understanding has to develop now. Because
but why the deathbed?
Because anything can happen. Later we may be racked with pain or death may be about to come. We may be in hospital. Anything can happen unexpectedly, but now there is the opportunity to develop understanding. Like if someone's in a coma on their deathbed, no opportunity to develop understanding, but now there is the opportunity.
Right.
And also, Roti, many people think at the time when they're on the deathbed about listening to Dhamma or, doing good so that they can be reborn in a good realm. But I think what Sarah's reminding is that if it's not now, if there's no development of understanding now, then it's not going to happen then.
We don't know if it's going to happen then or not. It can happen at any time.
I mean, if someone, yes, but to hear but that is with the intention of hearing or doing good or whatever they are thinking, so that they can be reborn. That itself is already a wrong wrong understanding, right? So that's not a condition for right understanding.
Right. Yeah.
Just wishful thinking and delaying and thinking I'll attend to this later.
Right.
And someone may bring up examples like the frog at the end of life that heard the Buddha's voice and had a happy rebirth, but it's the karma in the past that conditions the hearing of sound, just like now, and it's just the karma nimitta, it's just the sound that is heard. So it's the understanding now that conditions the last citas, the accumulation of understanding, the accumulation of kusala karma to condition those last moments that will bring about the rebirth.
But also saying, I shall attend to it now, can be done with wrong understanding, right?
Because any idea of I is wrong understanding. But the truth is that life is now, reality is now, and any understanding can only be now. So as Anne said, it's subtle, but the understanding has to begin to develop. And I think Ajahn was going to speak a little earlier. Were you going to say something, Ajahn?
Does anyone like to understand what is contemplation? I heard this word.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Well, it's a word that can be understood. It's just that a word that can be used for many things, right? It's an English word that's not very precise, depends on the context, I guess.
Usually there must be conditions for contemplation, right? About something interesting to think about. But what is that thinking to know what contemplation is? Because we used to hear about no one and no self. So even that moment shouldn't be known. Otherwise, it's I and thinking, contemplating all the time. And nobody can set any rule to understand the moment of contemplation or whatever it says, hearing or feeling or sanya, memory, remembering at that very moment. That's why just anything, when it is conditioned to understand, it doesn't matter while one is contemplating or not, or otherwise one think that one should contemplate in order to understand what is contemplating about, see? So any moment can be moment of understanding, depending on conditions. No matter what is seen or what is heard or what is thinking at that very moment, or even the moment of understanding what is contemplated can be known as not self. That's why no selection at all. When there is a strong or firm understanding of the truth of no self, it can condition listening at that moment. And the condition which has developed to understand that moment can be right then as what is there. So any moment can be moment of enlightenment by conditions. When we don't talk about the details of the process of enlightenment, one moment to another, but we talk about anything now can be object of enlightenment. So only oneself can know, can it be right now or not at all or not yet? To be truthful to the truth, not just thinking about if I have accumulated enough, it can arise now. But this moment is a proof how much understanding of what is there now. So many, many realities arising and falling away, uncountable, unknown, even right now. So only one reality at a time can be known as not self, because what is it? Only that which experiences or that which cannot experience. No need to talk about it, whether it's this or that. Should we call this or that at all? Because it's just now. So from moment of understanding that what is now can be understood, can be the object of right understanding, up to the degree that it can enlighten the truth of that which arises and falls away. The danger of life is the danger of each moment which arises and falls away instantly, clearly, at that very moment. No idea of the permanent thing or I or self or sorry or contemplation, but it's only that which is there, reveals itself, show up the truth. What we have heard is so true that it can be enlightened. So the word enlightened doesn't mean that enlighten this or that, but what about now? Enlighten what is there now, anytime, by conditions. That's why only oneself can know how much understanding of this moment, whether it can become enlightened or not yet, or just wish it can be, we don't know. But what about the understanding of any reality right now as not self? So no matter when contemplating on such and such, or seeing, or thinking, or liking, or disliking, is it the object of understanding directly yet? So enlightenment is the panya of that degree that can discern the truth, penetrate the truth of now arises and falls away. Only one at a time, no name, but it's there as it's conditioned to be that which experiences, so that it's I see or I think anymore, I like anymore. It's only that characteristic which is different. Even they can experience an object, but they are different by their natures and their characteristic and functions. Right now, see, Sanya marks and remember, even right now. Feeling is there. No understanding of it yet, even it's there. No selection until whatever is the object right then. Right understanding can understand that as no me, no I, no self, no thing. So enlightenment means the moment of enlightened the truth, the absolute truth of what is now as it is. Which ignorance cannot understand that at all. That's why it's not different from this moment anytime. Right understanding can develop little by little about the characteristic of that which is now appearing, but no condition to understand it until there are conditions enough to begin to understand. It's there to be known as it is, no matter what.
Ajahn, I'd just like to clarify the point, the question Tam brought up. So we were talking about virati, cetasikas, and as we know, the Sotapanna no longer has any temptation to kill or harm, so no virati of this kind. And we know that only the Arahat has no more virati of any kind, because no more akusala, even the most subtle kind, to abstain from. So, for example, the anagami only very, very subtle akusala remaining, but still there can be the abstaining from that very subtle akusala. So her question was, at the moment of the Arahata Magga, are there still 8 factors, still each kind of virati at the path moment of becoming an arahat, because there is still because the very subtle abstaining from akusala is completely eradicated. Is that correct?
When virati does not arise yet, how can there be the understanding of that reality as virati, even we don't use any term at all? So it has to be at moment when it's there. The moment when one is going to say something unpleasant or not useful at all. And the reality which stop it, not speak it out, is there. Otherwise, it's already done, see? And that is our reality. It's not me who is trying to not to do that, but it's only that virati cetasika which arises and performs its function. So can we begin to understand roughly what virati means? Because in the day, there's so many akusala, but when it's not through deeds and speech spoken out, harm the other. That is just ordinary as usual when it's not up to the degree that it will hurt the other. But when it's done, it means that there's no reality which can stop it. But when it's going to do, and then it's not done by that which arises and stop it, abstaining from such, no me, no I. So we can, as much as we can understand, we can understand the very rough events just like that. See, when you're going through something, even killing or speaking that which is not proper yet, not proper at all. And then what stopped that? Not you or anyone. Because when it's ordinary akusala, not to that degree yet, is there virati? Not at all. Until it's time to know that why it's not done, because of that reality arises as abstain from such deeds and speech. So we begin to understand roughly what is meant by a reality which abstain from ill deeds and ill speech. And then thinking about the other meaning of sila, because there are many aspects of sila which we have read in Visuddhimagga, but each one is different, because usually all kinds of kusala is sila, kusala sila. And akusala is the behavior of such manners of akusala. So it is akusala sila. And for Apayagata, we just don't talk about it, just talk about daily life, see. So we can understand that. And when we talk about no self, what is there? Otherwise, it's me, but not me. What is there? Is it sati? Sati arises with each moment of kusala. At that moment, when it's kusala, it's not time to speak wrongly or do ill deeds. But at moment when it's almost ready to do, what stop it? What abstain from such? It's a reality which is not just ordinary, but it's that very moment. Virati is there. That's why we have different meanings for sila. The cetana is sila, but it's not virati. Just before it's time to do, they can be thinking about, I will not hurt, I will not harm. But when time comes, right then, where is the cetana? Can it stop the cetana? But only the virati just arises and abstain instantly. So one can understand that it is not just the prime cetana, just not killing and doing things. But when time comes, it's time to know what is there, which abstain. because Chetana is there before, I will not do that. But when time comes, just write them. What is that? Which abstain?
And this is actually the answer, Tam. So there can be the beginning of understanding of that. Abstaining at that moment when, for example, one's about to say something harsh for a moment by conditions, but as understanding develops, then there can be more and more understanding of more and more subtle kinds of virati, according as different kinds of akusala are eradicated, until in the case of the arahat, no more virati at all, because no more akusala at all.
And for the anagami, they're still abstaining from speaking like unuseful things.
Do not have some papalapavata?
Only the arahata.
What reality abstain before becoming an arahata?
Still virati.
Virati.
Bachit, virati.
Because no more thought or inclination of any kind for any kind of akusala. No more thought of any akusala speech or any akusala at all, however subtle it is.
I think it's clearer. Thank you. Thank you, Ajahn. Yeah.
And always back to this moment to understand it, because as Ajahn said, there's no understanding of that virati cetasika when it arises, when there is the inclination to speak out in a unwholesome way, then impossible to understand the virati at that moment.
I'm just very briefly, I'm imagining that in the case of anagami, because there's no attachment to sense objects, then it's hard to imagine that there would be any intention to speak unkindly or certainly not harshly. It would seem impossible to me, but certainly for sakadagami, but I can't imagine for, it's an interesting case, I imagine, anagami, because they have eradicated attachment to coarse sense objects. Yes, there is still subtle attachment there, but yeah, it seems very difficult to imagine to me that there would be any thought of speaking unkindly or in any way. Yeah, it's an interesting area.
Ajahn mentioned sampa palapa. That's,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We should continue next time because.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Anumodana, Ajahn Saltika. We can continue next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you.
Swadikap, Ajahn.
Swadikap.
Thank you.
Anumodana.